Alright everybody, now that the alternator is properly mounted where it should be, we're going to start working on the fun stuff, the wiring. So we're going to kind of start at the alternator and make our way back into the cab of the car. The first step here at the alternator is our 2-wire alternator plug. There's 2 wires on this. This first wire here is a sort of a signal wire. It just supplies the alternator with a kind of a set voltage of what to charge at and what to charge more at. The red wire is what gives the power from the alternator and transfers it to the rest of the vehicle. So that red wire is going to loop back up and around and onto this one post here on the alternator. So the first thing I want to do is crimp this ring terminal on there, get that on there, and get our first little thing set up there. And then eventually we're going to make our way back by taking the battery terminal off of our old regulator and probably soldering in a new wire that'll run the length of where the old field and armature wire went back to the alternator. These will not be with us very much longer, so they'll be replaced by a fancy new wire. Okay, so when you buy these plugs brand new, they're already kind of pre-cut, so you should be able to just grab onto the red lead and pull that off maybe. Got some wire exposed there, so we're just gonna kind of spin this, twist it up a bit, and there should be enough contact being made through there. Then you get your crimper, crimp roughly where you want it to be, and then crimp that thing down. That's not going anywhere, so we're going to do a little test fit, find where this plugs into down there. So as you can see, one bolt comes off, the one nut I should say. Red plug wraps around and onto there. So we have our first set of wires set up. I'll take this so you guys can see this better. So that's what that looks like. This wraps around there to there. And then right now we're going to work on reaching a length of wire from there up into the bottom terminal of the old voltage regulator down there, because that's going to be, originally it would charge and it would transfer through that wire to the rest of the accessories and everything, but we're just going to get rid of this thing and cut through all that garbage, which also involves ripping out the old generator wires, which I'm also looking forward to do, so I'll do that next. Okay, so these just pull through by the oil filler slash breather cap. This wire loom is very old and dry, rotted. Oh man, it's just crumbling apart. Okay, so there's some like electrical tape stuff on here that is holding together what appears to be our ignition on wire for our coil, which I would rather have not trapped by this. So I'm going to kind of work all this crappy old tape off and see where that gets us. Okay, so with the field and armature to regulator wires removed, this piece of junk out of the way, that's nice and cleaned up, freed up, and the only wire remaining, since we gutted that, is this wire right here. This is the battery terminal wire. So initially with the 6-volt system, the regulator would transfer its power through that wire right there, and then that would transfer into the rest of the car and power all the accessories. So we're essentially going to reuse that. We're just going to bring it out here to our our alternator, because there's no more regulator in the way anymore, so it's just going to be a one wire off of that to power the rest of the car. So I'm going to get something set up here to allow that to happen. We've got a spool of wire. We just need to be able to reach this wire to the old battery terminal wire like so. I'm just going to wrap it kind of where it used to go through, underneath over the distributor and the oil filler neck. could try to. Okay, that's tangled up. Whatever. So that's the right length we need, so you can see that. This is gauge. Okay, got some more ring terminals that are going to fit on there. Same deal as before. Stick those through. These ring terminals are a little big for this, but it's going to do the same thing anyway. Just so you know, it's making it somewhat of a connection. Like I said, that's not even anywhere near the right wire size, but I don't know, it'll work. Take that nut back off. Make sure that stays on there. Okay, we have that fitted on there. Red wire goes from the plug to the terminal, and then off the terminal, and we're going to route that back to the lone battery wire sitting right there. I want to solder that, but I don't have an extension cord to do so, so we're going to figure something out there. Let's get the length right. We'll see. So the red wire is going to go straight back. Ooh, I lost it. To the old battery terminal here. Just like so. I'm just going to have that spliced in for now until I get a butt connector to make the two join together. That being said, I'm going to splice this. Automatics wire cutters would be very nice. I would love to have some. I just can't find a decent pair. I don't know. All the ones at the parts store have are junk, or they'll break after the first cut, or they don't even cut how they're supposed to. It's just a hassle. So I'm just going to see if I can split this old loom off, which we can. That's some thick old wire. Wow. That's some thick old stuff. Kind of get that exposed. I should probably keep this terminal on there for originality's sake, but I don't know. We don't really need it where we're going, so I'm just gonna cut it off. If this will even cut this old wire. Ooh, this stuff's ancient. It's like an old school heavy copper. Almost. Okay, there we go. And there's it old. It's gone now forever. Okay, so we got some wire exposed here. What am I gonna do? Try to chip more of this crap away. The fact that I can chip the old loom away is just absolutely fantastic. It's just great. I love being able to do that. I mean, ideally the whole car is gonna get rewired one day. Is that today? Absolutely not. But it'll happen eventually. There we go. So we got that nasty old, rusty old copper wire. And here we have our new nice copper wire. You can actually get a wire brush and brush that off if you really want to. I'm gonna do, at least try to get some more connection capabilities. It might not do anything at all, I don't know. Okay, well that's sketchy, but that's how you want to have it, I guess. So we're gonna solder that, or put a butt connector on there. This thing will focus. So that goes into the rest of the car, off of our alternator. I'm scratching up my paint. So yeah. The next wire is going to be that white one right there. That is the excite wire that kind of gives the alternator a supply voltage when you turn your key on to tell it, hey, this is how much voltage we're going to be charging at, or base the charging off of. So that wire's got to be routed through our mess of wires down there into the cab of the car with your key on, engine off. People like to put these diodes in there, or you can buy them pre-made with a diode. You saw from the other section of the video, those tiny little things in that package. Looks something like that. So we're gonna actually fabricate or solder a diode into the wire. People say that the white part's got to be facing, I guess, the plug, but we'll find out. So then we'll get that wired in, the other side will have another white wire, and then we'll start routing that into the cab of the car where our key is turned on when we get power. That's gonna suck a lot, but that's the second thing with the wiring. And then after that we'll wire a fuse in there and our positive terminal off the battery, or off the starter solenoid. Also gonna suck, but we gotta do it, so we might actually do that next. We'll see. Okay, so we have the plug back off the alternator. Here's the white side here, the excite side. I have the diode. I just stripped down the wire back a little bit. I have the one end of the diode with the white, there's a tiny little white half. This camera's not gonna pick up because it's junk. I just kind of have it sticking in there, and I have the wire wrapped around it. We're going to solder that in place and then do the same thing on the other half, and then just put a bunch of probably electrical tape, because I don't have any heat shrink on me right now. Go figure. That stuff is pungent. Lead-based, bad for your lungs. But it worked. Now we're gonna get the extra white spool that I have. We're gonna start unlooming this because we don't actually know how much we're gonna need to go into the car. So I'm just gonna start with that. Yeah, so it's not good to breathe in. Peel a bunch back. Might actually cut this up a bit more. Okay, so I'm literally just sticking it down. Okay, well now this won't reach the bottom, that's okay. And I'm wrapping it around, twisting it around. Just making sure this thing's got a good connection. Okay, it's plenty of solder to go around, I would say. Again, don't breathe that crap in. Terrible for your lungs. Okay, there we have a shoddy solder job. There's our plug. There's the little resistor diode. And you can maybe round this off a little bit more. There we go. That's a little better. It's a little bit though. Not a lot. I think it's hot incredibly fast. It's pretty handy. Alright, so now we have that set up, we can go to the rest of the car and kind of see how much length we need to have to go into the cab of the car. I'm also going to wrap this with electrical tape to protect that from getting water in there, in theory. Here's the plug. I have a little janky setup here. I'm going to plug it back in to the alternator. Hopefully, if it goes. This thing's weird. It doesn't like to plug in for some reason. I don't know what the deal is there. I will always fight this for some reason. I don't know why. What in the hell? Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay. So get the one end of our plug, the other end, get our little bolt, tighten that down. I'll just do it by hand for now, doesn't matter. Okay, then we got our white wire. I'm just gonna take off this stupid bendy tab thing, keeping us from spooling this out. There we go. And we're gonna kind of route this somewhere into the cab. I might just pull off kind of a rough estimate. I'm just gonna walk kind of to the driver's side door of the car. Kind of get, that's a rough idea of where I need to cut. Okay, so put it there. Drop our giant spool. Okay, so now we got a bunch of loose wire. We're going to route the same spot as the red wire of the power wire. Loop that up and around and through. Yeah, no one thinks you're cool. But I'm going to show you guys kind of where else we're at in here. So, white wire down across our breather cap, down by the red wire. It doesn't look that way how it is right now, but see, it's kind of a mess. So I found a little spot here where there's two new wires poking through. I think those are my brake light wires. So we're just going to follow that same circuit and see where that leads us, or that same hole area, up and through the dash. I think that's going through. Well, it's going somewhere, not in the car, so, or in the engine bay, so must be doing something. Okay, there we go, that's in. Okay, welcome to the inside of the car, where there's even more sketchy wiring. Oof! Okay, so there's that hole in the firewall, and here is our little wire. So this little guy has got to go to our lock cylinder right there. There's gonna be one terminal on the back of it. You don't. I can't get the camera in there. That this has got to have a ring terminal on. Another ring terminal. I need a million of these stupid things. And when the key goes on, it gets its little 12 voltage signal, and that tells the alternator what to charge at, supposedly. I don't know. We'll see. As far as our wiring goes, we got quite a bit of loose wiring, so I'll actually probably tidy that up a bit more, because we got a bit of an overkill here. So yeah, I'm gonna do that off camera, kind of clean this up a bit, make a list of what we need to get to the other parts store, and then continue. And then, yeah. Okay, before I make a run to the parts store, I'm gonna work on one last wire. That you see the big red wire there coming off the battery positive. There's a smaller one, a very skinny black one, that is going into the cab of the car. That is what also powers all of our accessories and everything. Originally, when I first got the car, nothing in the car worked at all. That's because this wire here had frayed apart and disintegrated over time. So I very, very shoddily soldered that in place to try to fix that. So we're actually going to upgrade to a thicker gauge. That's the plan anyway. And add a fuse in there for our new rated, higher amp rated system. Initially, these cars make supposedly like 35, 45-ish amps. This generator is a 65 amp, and we might be upgrading to a 100 amp later down the line if we want to run more accessories and whatnot. I'm not sure yet, we'll see, but right now 65 is plenty for what we need. I'm trying to tie that very tight on there. I just kept trying to loosen up. So, man, well, now it should be loose. Should be loose. You don't want to get these too tight because you'll ruin your starter solenoid if you do. And this is it's underneath warranty, but obviously you can't keep intentionally ruining your starter solenoid in it, otherwise they won't warranty it out. This is not how the way the world works. Okay, there's our janky little wire off. There's our big battery positive wire on there. Okay, so this goes up to this guy. So we're actually gonna cut him off and get ready to put our fuse in there instead. I'm gonna go and get a thicker wire at the part store as well because the little wire is a little skinny and maybe it's not passing enough current like it should. So we're just gonna not chance it and just get it while we're there. Also more ring terminals, of course. Can't have enough of those stupid things anymore. I just need to get a big variety box or something to keep in my tool bag. That would make things a lot easier for me. Okay, so that just cut. Sound like it cut. I thought it cut. There we go. Okay. So we're going to be replacing this little thing. This little messy, nasty, and it's just disgusting. I don't know how I let that slide. That was awful. Terrible, terrible wiring job by me. Past me, of course. So we're going to go to the part store, get a ring terminal that'll fit this, some thicker wire, and then we'll assemble our fuse, and then we'll get more butt terminals and probably a butt connector for our battery positive wire in the meantime for this right there. So yeah, we'll get this up together, make a little list, and we'll be that much closer to this thing running on 12 volts. Then we'll do the next couple steps and then we'll see where we get tonight. Okay, so we have the remaining accessories from the parts store to get this thing up and running. We got some wire here to wire off of that starter solenoid terminal. Ow, I just hit my head, that really hurt. And this little box here I have our fuse, and our thick ring terminals there, a butt connector for the alternator red wire, some other sort of butt connectors and ring terminals for the wire going into the cab of the car, for the key on position. So I am going to begin wiring that thing in, starting with, you can see that wire down there. You remember that one's kind of sketchy, so we're gonna make that not so sketchy. Ideally, you want to solder this, but we are not in a place to do so. So we're gonna do the next best thing and just butt connect it, because whatever. Again, like I said, ideally in a perfect world, solder stuff, guys, just solder stuff, but you can't, then whatever. Do what you got, use what you got. And people do way worse and way more sketchy things on these kind of cars, so it's like we're doing the worst thing on the planet. It could definitely be a lot worse. Oh man, I wish I had an automatic one of these. That would make this job so much easier. I don't know if I can cut it more in a different spot. Even more in another spot. Ah, shoot. Ah, sucks how strong this crap is. Jesus. Okay, so a couple minutes later, half an hour later, we have our wiring done. Ring terminal off there into this 80 amp fuse going up into the car. Then we have the red wire there going to that one butt connector also into the car. I'm definitely going to go back there and resolder that because that's a little discomforting for me. I'm definitely probably going to clean up this as well and get like an actual fuse holder instead of just that, because that's also kind of sketchy. I might put some electrical tape around that to seal it off so, you know, doesn't short out on anything, 'cause that's not cool. Last thing to do here is to get our white wire, which is, we got our white wire, which is somewhere down in here, up into the dash of the car and onto the key on. We'll do that, get that soldered in or ring terminal in, and then we will get our 12-volt coil on, put the battery in, make sure it's charged, and see what happens. So I'm gonna do that real quick, get that thing wired into the car. Okay, now that everything else is wired in, not everything else, but the important things, we're now going to put on our 12-volt ignition coil. We can probably run a 6-volt coil off of 12 volts, but it's not ideal. So here's our beautiful flamethrower coil here. I accidentally dropped it on the concrete by 3 inches and it chipped the bottom, but whatever. Still looks cool. So take these wires loose here and get this puppy mounted. We're in a bit of a time crunch here. I'm trying to get this car done before the sun goes down. That way I can battle not having any headlights and turn signals and all the lights on the dash that I need to see where I'm going and all the important stuff. Just trying to get this car out of this driveway too, out of the street. It's just, she's overstayed her welcome just a little bit, so we're just trying to get her out of here. As you can see here, it says use with external resistor. I will wire that in as well, probably a bit later because yeah, we just need to get the car running and driving. Okay, so the 12-volt coil is now in. Once we get it back home, we're going to wire in the ballast resistor, but for now, this is good enough. It's very shiny compared to that old nasty thing, but yeah, it's in there. Looking pretty good. So everything's wired up. That being said, I guess the moment of truth, I'm going to check the battery. We're going to put her in and see if she runs and charges. I hope it does, but we're gonna find out. Okay, battery's in the car. Thank you for driving by. Check our voltage. We are sitting at 12 volts exactly. That's a little low for my comfort. 12.94. Yeah, 12 volts. Ideally, you want to put a new alternator with a fully charged battery, but for now, we're just going to see if it charges. So I guess I'm going to go try to start the car and see what happens. You guys can sit and watch that. This is fucking stressful. Key on. See, I really hot wire. I don't know what that was, but that didn't sound good. Does not sound good. Oh, why? Perfect timing. Alright, so now that your car has a 12 volt proper alternator, You cannot run your 6-volt bulbs on 12 volts, otherwise they will all burn out in less than probably 3-ish seconds. So we're going to show you how to change the headlights on this car. Most 50s cars are like this, so nothing is too special here. One bolt on the bottom, originally it'd be a Phillips head. This is an aftermarket flathead because I lost one of them. One bolt in the bottom, so that comes out. Get your screwdriver prying object in the bottom of there. Pull out towards you on the beauty ring, lift up, there's a hook in the back. Now we're going to have 3 screws that hold in the trim ring. One here at the bottom, one at the top, and one on the other side. This one's already missing one, so I do need to find a replacement for that, so my headlights are a little bit better aimed. But there is one on the top here. So you take that flathead out as well. Get the other one on the other side. Okay, so this is the only thing holding the headlight in the car. Most cars up until the 90s, when all the glass ones are phased out, have a ring of similar, just like that one. So then the thing is loose in here. So literally, you pull it through, you just pull it out straight like that. There's a 3 terminal headlight connector right there. This is all newer stuff, of course. So if it's original, it's going to look a little bit different. So take that headlight out. I already have the 12-volt one in there, but for an example, you just plug it back in, make sure it's nice and tight in there. And then there's going to be these kind of grooves you see here that line up with these glass indentations on the headlight, and it cradles it in place. So it has somewhat of an idea of where to go. And then same thing, put the screws back in. And in case you're wondering what the other screws are, there's one on the side and one on the top. Those are for adjusting the headlight. You turn this one, loosen this one to bring it out more, loosen the top one to bring it down more. So side to side, up and down. These are things already pretty much aimed anyway. So okay, so you see that little slight notch, it's a slight little hole there. That's where this on your beauty ring lines up in. So this has got to go in first, so make sure you hook that in first. You'll feel it kind of drop down, then give your headlight a couple taps, and she is back in, looking good. So put your last screw on the bottom in, make sure that thing is where it needs to be, and that's how you change the headlight on pretty much any pre and early post-war car, GM especially. But if you can figure one out, you can figure the rest of them out. Ooh, I just scratched the hell out of the paint. So yeah, there we have nice new Sylvania Silver Star headlights on the Chieftain. Not looking too shabby. Okay, the front marker lights are a similar process. This time you want to get a flathead or a Phillips head screwdriver. There'll be a Phillips head here and a Phillips head here. This one's not in there because whatever is holding it in before from the back side is rusted through, long gone. I need to go to the hardware store and find a bolt to put behind there. So for us, the front screw is just good enough. This whole housing comes off. There should be a gasket here to keep moisture out, but for now it's good enough. There'd be a bolt here, that's where that would go. So these bulbs, there's already 12-volt bulbs in there, but you already push, pull out, just like so. It's just a regular 1157 style bulb. Push in, and it's good to go. And installation is reverse the disassembly. Put that back in, line up your holes. This one's kind of tricky sometimes to hold in. There we go. Screw that bad boy in. And yeah, looking fresh. Alright, so moving on to the rear. The rear taillights in this car are probably one of the easiest bulb changes you can do on any car, honestly. It is super simple. So if you look in there, there's our socket. Literally just pulls out. See, there's little springs in there. Those springs are what's holding that in, essentially. So it's very easy. It pops in and out. Lines up with that tab on the bottom. And this is, again, regular 1157 bulb. Push in, go to the counterclockwise, pulls out like so. And then, again, going in, same thing. And then turns clockwise, and then we're in, and putting it in. There's a tab on the top of the bulb housing there. Plugs that in, and you're good to go. Reverse light's a little bit different. You take two small flathead screws on the housing and get that out. As you cannot get it out from the back, it is solid in there. It goes for both reverse lights there. There's already down the two flatheads there. As far as your gauge cluster bulbs go, I always recommend removing them before you kind of start and run the car in 12 volts, just so you don't kind of burn out all of your old 6-volt ones. If you want to, great, that's fun too, but I just took them all out. On the Pontiacs, it's a little tricky to get to them. On the Chevys, there's actually a plate on the firewall you can access from the engine bay. Take like 8 or so screws out, pull the panel back, and all the bulbs are just right there waiting for you. But with this particular Pontiac, you get to go in from the back and kind of reach your hand up and around and grab the sockets and pull them out. I think there's about, let's see, 2, 6 in total. And then there's 2 for the indicator lights, 1 for the HVAC lights, and then there'll be 1 for the clock light as well. I haven't gotten to that one yet. It's kind of hard to get to. Then there's 1 for the key lights. There's actually a light that shows where your key switches as well. But yeah, those aren't too bad to get to. Just make sure you replace all of them at the same time. One more bulb I forgot to mention is that there is one in this housing here that shows you which gear you're in at nighttime. It's actually pretty cool little feature. That one actually burnt out a long time ago. Either it burnt out or had a bad ground or connection somewhere in the column. But only way to take that apart, I believe, is to take apart your whole steering column, or maybe a couple bolts on the back. But we'll get there when we get there. But for now, it's okay. But there's a bulb there as well.
And of course, if you have a Pontiac or a car with any sort of light up ornament of any kind, don't forget your bulb in there as well.
Of course, don't forget your dome light, and don't forget your trunk light either. Okay, next thing to wire in is the ballast resistor. So the ballast resistor, again, brings your voltage down to something more acceptable so your points don't sit and arc out and cause your car to misfire. The ballast resistor is actually very simple to wire in. It has 2 lines going in and out. The one line comes off of where your ignition positive would normally, or used to have gone to, right here. But instead we have it spliced off, a pin connector there, going in, and going out. The black wire going to your ignition positive. So instead of having this go directly, we have it bypassed with the ballast resistor. And I just had this thing mounted to the firewall in the old location of the voltage regulator mounting hole, so it actually all ended up working and looking very nice. So it's very simple, 2 terminals there. Wire goes to ignition positive, and that brings your voltage down. Otherwise, it misfires very badly and just runs kind of crappily in the higher RPMs. But yeah, it never worked better. And look good with the chrome coil there as well. So not too shabby. That's what that black wire there looks like going to the coil. So as you can see, it runs the length down there to the coil positive, and down there it goes into the ignition. One of the closest to last things we have is going to be our old horn relay. So the old horn relay is kind of a stupid spot beneath the horns there, across the nice warm engine there, about a mile away it feels like. Pretty simple to do though. There's just 3 screws that hold where your power goes on and goes to the 2 horns, and then there's 2 bigger mounting bolts there as well. Again, you go to the parts store and just look up horn relays and find one that kind of matches your original one. In our case, ours looks like this. 3 screws there, mounting brackets there. It's like that. So I'm gonna try to tackle that once this thing cools down here. I'll give you guys an audio clip of what this horn sounds like with the 6-volt relay on 12 volts. It is kind of clownish. It doesn't sound natural, not really as deep as the old ones used to be. So I'll show you guys that here. This is what it looks like, me climbing into the engine bay, climbing on the front bumper to reach down in here to get this thing apart. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so the relay screws are out. So now we're going to get our 7/16 socket in here and try to take out the mounting bolts. Whoa, the whole thing's spinning now. It wants out. Oh, that's what mounts the horn. What the heck? Well, that's not good. That's news to me. Careful. Oh, the horn mounts to it. Oh, that's kind of cool. Well, here's our old horn. Huh. And there's our old relay. I mean, let's compare the two, shall we? Yeah. Let's hope this thing works. Well, the new relay's in. I did also clean up the connection points where it screws to the relay, just to make sure we have a good connection and everything. It's in, but correct me if I'm wrong, this is the same loudness that it just was. That being said, either I bought a 6-volt relay, didn't know it, or someone put a 6-volt relay in the 12-volt box, or it's just going to be that loud. I'll figure it out, but for now, it is what it is. We tried. If it's wrong, I'll put this one back on and, yeah, call it a day.
So one of the final things we need to take care of is in our case, our water gauge, our temp gauge. So people say that if you convert a 6-volt car to 12 volts, that normally your fuel gauge is the one that doesn't work. It'll just peg out to max no matter what, I guess. But in my case, all of the gauges work besides the water temperature gauge. Oil pressure works just fine, fuel works just fine, battery works just fine. This one does not. It just pegs out to 230 when as soon as it warms up, you'll see it start creeping up to 160 or whatever, then it pegs to 230 when you're driving. I know for a fact the car doesn't run at 230, so it's just broken. So in our case, we have that Runts voltage reducer, so we're going to install that, and that will take care of our issue and give us an accurate temp reading. In fact, it should be more accurate on 12 volt because with our 6-volt, we weren't getting the proper voltage, so the gauge actually wasn't reading how it was supposed to, so this will actually help out a little bit. Alright, so the next thing that I wanted to wire in, you don't really need this for your 12-volt conversion, but I always wanted it. I was curious what RPMs my car was running, going down the highway especially, so I figured I'd toss in a tachometer. I put this in when it was still 6-volt, thinking I could maybe convert it, but you can't. So it's just kind of hanging here, useless. But now I'm a 12-volt car, I can run a 12-volt tachometer. So these are very easy to install. There's literally just 4 wires on the back. The black wire is a ground, so obviously that needs to go to ground somewhere. I believe I just have mine going to whatever ground I found was closest to me. So somewhere up in there, I plugged it into a good ground. The white wire is for your lights, so I just tapped into a fuse that I knew, or a point in the car, in this case the headlight switch, where with the lights off there's no power. So I got a test light, right, put it up against it, no power, turned it on one click, had power, so I just plugged it into that point. I'll show you that here. And the red wire is your power on, so I just did the same thing, but I went into the fuse box, got my test light, poked in the fuse with the key off. This fuse had no power right there. If you can see that. Key off, no power. Key on, it had power, so I just put the red wire straight into that. And last but not least, we have the green wire. The green wire is our signal wire to actually run the tachometer to tell us what our RPMs are. That wire goes to the negative side of the ignition coil. So every time a spark is fired off the coil, that on cylinder, just whatever coil, it fires off, right? Fire, 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 and the points open up. That's the RPM, so that's what our engine's spinning over. It goes right in there. So the wire's a little bit long right now. I need to go back and cut it. That's literally all you do to install a tach. It's 4 simple steps on a motor car like this. As long as you got a coil, power, ground, and a light spot, should be okay. And the thing works really well, and it's actually really cool to see what RPMs my car runs, and we'll show what that looks like when the car's driving. Okay, the last little thing that I kind of wanted to do, you don't have to do this, but just to show that it's possible, I did it. So here we have our original cigarette accessory outlet assembly here. So this is plugs in, this little case right here holds it on. This just sticks to the firewall, and from the back side you take this and thread it on tight, and that's what would hold it up against. There's a key here where it plugs in. So this right here is one you can buy at the parts store, just a 12 volt universal cigarette outlet, accessory outlet assembly here. So you're probably asking, well, if you like it so much, why don't you just swap out the old cigarette outlet with the new one? Well, if you've ever seen one of these before, the old ones are actually way bigger. So I mean, look at that. This is the new one, new modern car one. Doesn't even try to accept it. Here's the old one. That one just kind of loosely slides in. And so that's one out of a Pontiac. I can get one out of an Oldsmobile too, just to show you. Same deal. This one's just, so this is the old one, right? Goes right in how it should. There's stuff rolling around here. Oof. Here's the new one. Again, you can really cram it in there, make it work, but it's not where it belongs. Even then, they're made differently. So what I wanted to do was to swap over the look of the old one, but the functionality of a new one. So what you do is you take this thing off. There's a little power tab on the back here. Just it threads in like so. You just unscrew that. Then you want to unscrew the retaining ring. And here we have our new cigarette outlet assembly just bare. Alright, keep this stuff together here. Here we have our old one, same deal. Thread that thing off the back. This thing also threads off. This is where the on the old car it would kind of spring in. You turn to the right, lock it in place, unlock it, spring loaded too. Same little assembly there. Take that out. Then for the beauty ring, you just push off the back, pops it out, and there's our old cigarette outlet assembly. So as you can see, a little bit, the new one's a little bit longer, but otherwise they're just about the same in their form. So yeah, kind of cool to see there. So now what you want to do is you want to get your old one. So here's our Pontiac one. Hold it down and actually thread off our old cigarette outlet port there. Here's the old base of that. Then we get our new one, do the same thing. I'm going to hold that down and thread off our actual button there. Now you have that off. So then we get our new one, line it up, and this one will actually thread on as well. You just kind of have to hold it in place. Put your finger down here by where you would light your cigarette. Thread it in place, and it will go. There we go. So now we have the look of the old one inside a new cigarette outlet. That's kind of cool. So then we take our new ring. We're going to take our beauty ring, slide it over, get our new cigarette outlet, plug it in with our old base. Looks like the old one. And then get our new end, our new case threaded on there, like so. As you see, it locks it in nice and sturdy. And then get the terminal off of our old one and thread that on, like so. So now we have a combination of the old with the old actual thing you grab onto, the old beauty ring, and the old connection point there. The functionality of a new cigarette outlet. So you can plug in your new car outlets into here, your accessories, your chargers, your fans, whatever, your RGB lights, whatever you might have, or keep looking clean, your old cigarette outlet for your Pontiac. Here's the Oldsmobile one again. Doesn't really want to go in there. Tight fit. But yeah, that's how you swap the thing over to make it look like your old cigarette outlet. And I will say for the ground, this one just grounds off by threading up against, just in case you don't short anything out. It wouldn't hurt to add an extra ground terminal onto here, just put on a regular ground, and you should be okay. Otherwise, yeah, it works and looks just like the old thing, and works just like the new one. So, quick little DIY on how to do that. Now that this thing's finally a 12-volt car, let's go for a ride.
All right, driving the Chieftain. So, mind you, this car's been sitting for about a week now on this Optima battery, so hasn't been run or charged in a week, so we'll see if it's any good on 12 volt. Starting these things up is super simple. Take your key, ignition on, gauges move up. Always press the carb down twice fully. Let it sit for about 10-ish seconds. Let the gasoline vapors kind of dissolve in the carb and everything in the intake. And then you get your finger, you press the ignition button. Sometimes it'll be a little tricky to get it to run. Make sure you're in neutral. Sometimes you gotta give it a little bit of gas with your foot, and it'll take over. We are in fact charging, so that's pretty sweet. So at idle here, the battery gauge is sitting just in the middle of the dot. Obviously there's not a lot of systems that this car needs to be charging the battery for. I mean, we just have the ignition on right now, that's literally it, and I guess the clock and the gauge is here, and our tachometer. I always let these things warm up for like 5 minutes on a hot day, maybe 10 minutes if it's a cold day. Just, you want the transmission especially to be warm, that you don't want to burn anything out. It's been about 2 months since the conversion, so this is basically just kind of an update as well. It's been working great. I've driven this thing about 30 miles of town almost every week with no mechanical faults in the charging system at all. Sometimes you'll be a little bit nervous if it's going to break down or not, just from it being 6 volt, but it's been super reliable, if not as reliable as all my other modern cars on this 12 volt system. It charges every time. Battery gauge did go up there. It's been good so far. All the lights work at night. I can drive this thing all night. No worries at all. Headlights are super bright, taillights are bright, brake lights, turn signals, everything works how it should. We got a working dome light too. Only lights I need to replace is the clock light and my hydromatic shift light, just to finish off the touch, but they're kind of hard to get to, but we'll get there eventually. So as you can see, the battery gauge has gone up a little bit. Water gauge starts to creep up slowly. Oil pressure gauge is working fine. Alright, I think we're decently warmed up, so let's put her in gear. Of course, pull your handbrake off. Push the brake in. Put it in drive, shouldn't rear anything over. No power steering, does take some getting used to, but honestly the car moves itself along perfectly fine, as you can see. Minimal effort here. I'm gonna dodge the Corolla. The only thing I've noticed since is that our transmission is starting to leak some fluid. That's a mechanical issue we'll deal with at a different time. She's warmed up, she doesn't really want to go as good. Got to get the torque converter spinning there. about 76 degrees out today as well, so we'll see how she does in this warmer weather. It's been pretty cold out driving it recently. It's been all winter and then the spring, but I think as the summer goes along we'll get a bigger fan, especially. Battery's staying in the middle. It's charging just not very much. Again, we don't have a lot of load going on right now. We just have our ignition system. Transmission's all throttle leakage controlled. Temp's starting to go past 100. Fuel gauge is a little bit down below half. She's a thirsty car. She drinks a lot of gas. I mean, what are you gonna do about it? Oil pressure is about 40 psi, which is great for a car that's never been restored like this. It's crazy being used to driving it around the yard and being able to leave the driveway to go farther than you really ever were used to going. Tachometer's sitting about 900 RPMs right now. She's got some pep. 6 volt, it would just fall flat in its face, but so flip the blinker on. Left indicator. I will say the indicators are a little goofy sometimes. Okay, now it's working ironically. Before it was flashing both as if the hazards were on, and now it's actually flashing the left one. We'll give it a very light throttle. We're about 160 right now, temperature-wise. Sitting at about almost 2,000 RPMs. We're already in 4th gear. Going about 50 miles an hour. This thing just cruises right along. It's pretty spectacular how good it does on 12 volts. And again, I haven't run it in about a week now, so beautiful day to drive a classic car. Before I couldn't do that. It's about 2,500 RPMs. With the 6 volt, you can never just lay into it like that. I mean, it would just fall right in its face. But this, you can really show how torquey the straight 8 is. I'm only driving with one hand too. I mean, it's just that simple. We're going about 60 right now, according to the speedometer. It's a bit off. I need to loop up that cable. That'll be a short little DIY sometime. Otherwise, mechanically right now, this car is perfect. Ideally, if I wanted to sell this right now, I could fetch it maybe, I think at least double what I bought it for. I mean, anyone can hop in this car and someday start it right up and drive it to church, drive it to go get lunch, breakfast, whatever, and have no problems. Like I said, I've driven this like 30-ish miles almost every day 1 week, and it does just fine. In traffic, it does get a little fussy. She starts creeping up past 180. She can't really pull a lot of air with her current fan. Plus the shroud is kind of useless, I feel like, so we'll fix that one day. But going down the highway, right now we're not even sitting at 180. So this car never really overheats at all. Sitting at about 2,200 RPMs, according to that tachometer. 60 miles an hour, probably 50 more accurately. But yeah. At first I really didn't want to do the 12 volt conversion. I figured it'd be a lot of money, it'd be a lot of time. I'm a mechanic, I should be able to figure out the 6 volt stuff. But at the end of the day, it was worth every second. I mean, just for how drivable this car is. Now everyone thinks, oh, you can't drive a 50s car every day. They're too old, it's too slow, they don't keep up with traffic. None of that's really true. It's a little slow, but I mean, look how big it is. Obviously, we got a lot to pull around. It keeps up in traffic fine. I'll be passing people all the time. Everyone loves it. I mean, you just can't get enough attention in this thing. And it's reliable. I mean, you put gas in it, and you go. That's just that easy. Easy to watch this. Lay the hammer down, she wants to go. We're going about 70 miles an hour, sitting at almost 3,000 RPM. I don't typically drive like this. I like to keep it easy, take it easy. We're now reached about 180 degrees, so she's warmed up all the way. So like I said, this thing's just a cruiser, man. You just get in and you can cruise. And the fact that you can do the 12-volt conversion at home with your very own, you know, part store, simple things you get on the internet, which is just insane to me. You can make any old car reliable with the same setup that I just did. And of course I was skeptical, but here we are. Proof is in the pudding. Working just fine. The exhaust is a bit loud. The holes in the floors make it a bit loud too. That rumbling is just awesome. Of course, we need to get that looked into. We'll get a real exhaust for it and everything. It does get a little hot in the summer. Brakes are starting to squeak a little bit. The brakes are great on this. I couldn't be more happy with those. She just spun the tires a bit. She's got a little bit of power, at least on some loose gravel like this. For a car this old, it really does shift really nice. I mean, it's insane how nice this thing shifts. As you can see, all of our gauges are working really well. Sitting at about 2,500 RPM, going 60 miles an hour. Oh yeah, this thing's just fun. I mean, you just get in, you put it in gear, and you drive. I mean, it's just that easy. Temperature says it's a little warm. I mean, it's a big engine block, so there's a lot to cool down, so I don't blame it for being hot. But again, that's not overheating, so it is what it is. Just don't let them sit in traffic for too long if they're this original. Driving like an asshole in the middle of the road right now. And we're just delivering the goods right now. That part out. But yeah, really, I mean, 12 volts, this thing is unstoppable. You can drive it all day, all night, show off that cool hood ornament, and have a good old time. These old cars are really just that easy. Through a lot of trial and error with a 6-volt, I mean, you know, we made it work. And it was totally worth it. This thing just sounds awesome. As long as she's got gas in it, she'll move. cars aren't that big either. Everyone expects 50s cars to be like massive, but this thing's no bigger than like a late 90s Suburban, really. It's smaller, you know? It's really cool to look out on that long hood and see that Chieftain at the very end there. I mean, that's what it's all about. Now, obviously, we got some odds and ends to loosen up. But electrically, without doing a full rewire, this thing is as good as you can get on original wiring. I would like to rewire it, just for safety and everything, and modernize the fuse box, because it's hard to find glass fuses in certain sizes. It really is. It's annoying. So I'd like to get some modern fuses on it. But yeah, that'll be a future deal. Otherwise, I'm not worried about a fire or anything. In fact, 12 volt produces less current than a 6 volt, so we have less of a chance for a fire hazard, really. Oh, that dash is just beautiful too. Woo! The split window is not a big deal. I thought it'd be more annoying, but it really isn't. I mean, you got great visibility all throughout this car. It's not hard to drive. I think anyone could drive one of these. I mean, for an engine design from 1933, it sure is pretty damn good. I mean, I don't imagine it's much quicker than a Civic or anything, but that's enough to get around. That's how you ride in style. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the 12 volt conversion on our 51 Pontiac Chieftain. Of course, there'll be a couple more videos going on about the Chieftain as the channel progresses, but a large majority of the things that need to be done in this car, exhaust, interior, are kind of out of my hands. I'm a mechanic. I don't work on that kind of stuff, especially interior work, plus I want it done right. Clean this paint up actually we'll repolish it, maybe clear coat it, wax it, so on and so forth. Make it look a little more presentable, maybe do some touch-up paints on some certain emblems and things here and there. Repolish the chrome, get her looking good for car shows. Of course, she'll be attending many car shows as the summer goes on. Altogether, 12 volt conversion, highly recommend it. If you think you want to put it off, maybe wait till it's warmer out to work on it. It's not fun doing it in 10-degree weather in your friend's driveway in the middle of town. Let me tell you, based on experience, that sucks. But it was worth it in the end, and this thing is a go-getting son of a gun, and this thing can take me anywhere. That being said, hope you guys enjoy, hope you guys learned something important. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. I'd be happy to help. I really know one to tell me what to do based off just internet searches, so at least step by step anyway. So yeah, that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.